Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And today I'm going back to doing a deep dive of a band, and the name of the band is The Police. So I went through all their, I only have 5 albums, so I went through all 5 albums, of course, and went through all the songs, came up with top 10 songs. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about how the band started, kind of the highlights of their career, basically, and how it ended, and just a little bit of stuff, and also my opinions on the music itself. So stay tuned to hear my thoughts here on Jason, the Old Millennial. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well here on a Thursday, kind of early evening period. Kansas. Kansas, very weird weather. Seems like last week I was wearing a coat. This week I'm wearing shorts. Today is a little bit cooler. It's getting down in the 50s, but it just feels weird. The weather doesn't know what to do. Is it going to be fall weather? Is it going to be winter? Is it going to be spring? I don't know. Is it going to be summer? It just changes all the time. But yeah, so I'm doing a deep dive. I like to do these deep dives. I've done 8 deep dives so far on different bands and artists and all that. And I like doing these deep dives because I really get to discover an artist. Sometimes for the first time, sometimes it's a band I like, but I've just never gone through all their albums before. So it's definitely fun for me to go through all their albums and kind of really get a real good feel of their career, through that. And also I go and do a lot of research and kind of write up some notes anyways to talk about the band. And today I'm going to talk about the band The Police, which I came across The Police. The Police is a band I've never listened to real hard. I kind of knew who they were. The only thing I really knew about them was Sting, of course. Sting was the lead singer and bass player of the band. In fact, I remember growing up, all I knew was Sting. I didn't know about The Police. I just knew, in fact, I thought all these songs were Sting songs. I didn't know it was a band song called The Police. I think it seems like it was later in my teens that I found out that, oh, Sting was in a band called The Police. And it's one of those things where, I heard their songs on the radio, I guess, and I just never connected that. I just connected that was Sting singing. I didn't connect that was a band called The Police, I guess, even though they probably said something. And I don't know if I even knew all these songs were police songs. I just knew I heard them on the radio and go, oh yeah, I know that song and that song. And I was thinking, I don't know why, I just never really listened to the band or even talked to people who listened to Police. I was thinking my parents didn't listen to it, my siblings, my friends. I don't remember anybody talking about the Police. So it wasn't a band I was really real familiar with. And, I find out that, oh yeah, there's this band Sting fronted and they were fairly popular. I guess I didn't know they were that popular. To be honest, I thought, oh, it's just a little known band that he was in before he became solo. Because to me, Sting is a great, not great, I haven't listened to his solo stuff, but of the big stuff he's done, I just think of him as a solo artist. I've only known him really growing up as they broke up, basically. By the time I was born, they were already broken up, basically, or their last album came out when I was born. So so it was interesting. I was talking to, when I became friends with SoundLab Studios, Garrett/Scott, whatever, who runs that, and then Nick, and of course I was already friends with Briar, and we kind of formed this group together, and we've been doing a lot of collab videos. And one of the first videos I collaborated with in the group was ranking all the Police albums, actually. And the Police was a band I was kind of interested in doing a deep dive at some point because I knew they had some hit songs and they were, fairly big in the 80s. I always thought them as an 80s band, that they started in the 70s. And I just knew Sting, and all that. So it definitely was a band I was interested in learning more about because I didn't know anything really about them. And I know Garrett is a big fan of the Police, and I think maybe Nick and Briar as well, but I just remember Garrett really talking them up and saying I should really listen to their stuff. And I think he came with the idea of doing a ranking of their albums. And they only had 5 albums, so that makes it really easy to rank albums when a band only has 5 in their collection. Instead of Rolling Stones, it has 24, or something. Or Rush has 19, those takes a little bit longer, but so I was like, yeah, this would be cool. It's a good opportunity to learn about this band. And so I listened to all 5 albums and, learned a lot about their sound and everything, and did some research anyways, and ranked them on his channel. So that was kind of my introduction to the Police this last year. So I kind of really just kind of started to get to know them, and didn't know anything about their albums really or on all that. I just Didn't really know much. I knew their hit songs. When I heard them, I go, oh yeah, I know that song. That was a hit song I've heard on the radio, when I listened to kind of the oldie stations growing up. Anyway, so I was kind of familiar with that and all that. But anyways, so yeah, so now I'm listening to them. Yeah, and overall, yeah, I really like what I'm hearing. I'll get into all these albums that they've done. What are my favorites? But yeah, they have a lot of great songs. It was fun getting put a top 10, which next week, usually after I do deep dive, I do a top 10 favorite songs from that band or artist. So next week, hopefully I'll find some time to reveal a top 10 as well. But yeah, I think overall they have an interesting sound. They combine, because they started out as a punk rock band, but then they combine and Sting has a lot of jazz influences. So you get this combination of like punk, jazz, then reggae, which is really interesting. You get some reggae in there, of course, some rock, and even later on, you get more pop sound in there, I think, as well. I would say the first three albums, to me, was more of that punk, reggae, rock sound. And then I feel like when you get to Ghost in the Machine and Synchronicity, they're implementing more pop, which I like those albums a little bit better than the early albums, just to say. On top, I do love when they implement more pop elements into their songs. Because I am a big fan of, I like rock music, pop music. I love really good catchy music. Anyways, obviously the big song is Every Breath You Take. That was on the radio a lot growing up. Like if I knew anything about the Police, or I knew anything about Sting, I knew he sings that song Every Breath You Take, which was a huge hit. And that song I really liked growing up. So that was my main thing. I was like, and then when I was listening to them, of course, I was like, oh yeah, I know this song. So I knew them more than I even knew when I started listening to these albums. But anyway, so yeah, very interesting sound overall. I think that it's a very unique sound. I don't know if I've heard too many other bands with that kind of sound. They're called the British New Wave. Was kind of the genre that they were kind of put in the late 70s into the 80s, which I'm new to New Wave. I'm not real familiar with New Wave music, so that's kind of interesting to hear for me. Yeah, and they were called like the Second British Invasion, or they were kind of the first band of the Second British Invasion, they called it, and they were like the first of the British New Wave. They call it the British New Wave that kind of came to America because America wasn't big, I think, on that British New Wave, and they were kind of the first band to break into America and become kind of popular in America. Though they're much more popular in the UK than they were in America. I would say their album sales and their chart and their singles doing better, anyways. But they did, got some good hits in the US as well. And so they're kind of the first new wave band to kind of come to the U.S., it seems like, and kind of take over a little bit. But anyways, so that's some of my overall thoughts on the band. Let me go a little bit through their history. The band basically starts in 1976, and it basically was started by the one American in the group, which is Stuart Copeland, who was a drummer, who was from, I think, Virginia or something like that. And he was over in England drumming, playing for bands there in England. Interesting enough. And so in that time, he came across Sting, who was a bassist. And Sting, his real name is Gordon Summers. Sumner. Gordon Sumner is like his real name, but he was like a jazz bassist or something like that. He played different bands, and one of the bands he played in, he was wearing like a jacket, I think, and it was like yellow and black or something like that. He had some kind of yellow-black scheme, and the somebody in the band or something like that said he looked like a bee, like a bumblebee or something like that. And so then they started calling him Sting. So he kind of got the nickname before they made the Police the Sting. And so he goes by Sting everywhere. It's kind of interesting. It's not his legal name, of course, but he says in interviews, I've heard him say that his wife calls him Sting, his kids call him Sting, like his parents call him Sting. It's like, that's his name. It's not official, but that's what he is. So never call him Gordon, which is kind of interesting. And no one's ever had, I don't think. But anyway, so he meets Sting, who's a bassist in another band. And he really likes what he's hearing from Sting. And he basically kind of meets up with him and says, yeah, I really like, your bass playing and your singing and all that. And I really would love to jam with you. So they exchange numbers, and they meet up in London, England. And they just have like a little jam, them, the drummer and the bassist. And they really connected there. And really liked what they're doing. And Andy Sumner, sorry, that's the guitar player, comes later. Stuart Copeland was really the one that was like, we really need to start a band. And he really wanted to start a punk rock band. Because I think punk rock was getting kind of big in London and England area, I know like Clash, was coming out in the late 70s, I think, with the London Calling was a big album and kind of a big punk album, and they were kind of the big punk English punk band at the time. And I think some other punk bands were coming around that time. So that was kind of a popular genre for them anyway. So you want to start a punk rock band with Sting. And it's interesting, if you look at those early pictures of Sting, he kind of has that spiked up hair and he wears like the black leather jacket. He does have this punk rock look to him at the time that kind of fit. And he always had kind of like this, light blonde hair that really worked well. Anyway, him and Copeland and Sting kind of was like, yeah, let's start a band together. We think we really got something together. So they actually, first guitar player they actually came into the band was a guy named Henry Padovini, and they formed this three-member band, and they call themselves the Police. Which I didn't see why they call themselves the Police. I usually like to. I actually wrote this up a long time ago because I kind of did this deep dive a long time ago. I'm just now finally getting to do it. I have a lot of deep dives ready for the channel that I'm just now kind of getting to. So this is when I first started doing these, so I don't have all the information I would like because I was kind of learning how to do this, but I have to look up some point why they call themselves the Police. I'm sure someone out there will tell me in the chat, but anyway, so they come up with the band named the Police anyways. Well, in 1977, they then met, Andy Summers was a guitar player playing also, he's from England, and he was playing in a band, and Andy Summers heard them and liked what he heard. And from what I've read some things that say that Andy approached Sting and Copeland and said that like, you need a better guitar player basically, and you need me in the band. I can really elevate, really play well with you or something like that. So I don't know exactly if that's true or what exactly happened, but somewhere in there they met Andy and was believed that he would be a good addition to the group, and so they kind of added him to the group. And Andy kind of said, I want to be in the group, but I want the group to be only a 3-member band. So basically he was saying, I will join as long as you kick out the other guitar player, Henry Padovini, which maybe was kind of a, underhanded, kind of move to do that. But I'm guessing they must have thought, yeah, you're a better guitar player than what we got. So, Padovini's kind of like the Pete Best of the group, unfortunately. He was like, sorry, man, we just found someone better and you're out. And Andy Summer comes into the group anyway. So I don't know why they wanted to just be a 3-member band. I'm not sure what the deal is, if that's just really popular for punk rock. But anyway, so he joined in. And that's what we know. So 1977, when they replaced Padovini with Andy Summers, that's the formation of the Police from now on. They will always be those 3 members until they break up, basically. So that's what we know him as. So one of the good things about Copeland is Copeland had an older brother named Miles. Miles was kind of involved in the music industry, and he had access to a recording studio. And so they were able to use him to get some time maybe into a recording studio and record some music. And it's interesting, Miles at first didn't know, if this band had anything, if they really, had what it took to be like any, sell any records or anything. He wasn't really convinced until he heard Sting singing Roxanne, or them playing the Roxanne song. And when he heard Roxanne, he was like, oh, that's a good song. Like, that's unique. That's something that could sell, And so he was kind of sold on the band when he heard that. It really helped him get a record deal with a record company, and I think he probably took that song and showed it to the companies and was like, hey, listen to this song, this band has something, and they did get signed on with a record deal, and they put out the song Roxanne, which interesting enough didn't do really well at first because it's such a kind of controversial subject matter. Interesting song because Roxanne is a prostitute hooker who has a boyfriend, and the song's sung from the boyfriend's point of view of, Roxanne, you don't have to put that red dress on, you don't have to go out tonight, saying like, don't go, do your thing, stay here with me. A very interesting song idea, and so it's a little controversial, but it did eventually catch on, and it reached to number 12 on the charts in UK, so it eventually become a hit song, and it's one of their biggest hit songs, and it's a song that you definitely, if like I said, it's definitely one of the biggest radio played songs that I've heard growing up. So if you know anything about the band, Roxanne's probably one of the songs you've heard of. And so yeah, it was the first big hit. The song I really like as well. I love Sting's, Roxanne. Like, oh, so good when he starts off with that. And for me, like the band is really good musician wise. I think it's a really good band. But really the selling point to me is Sting's vocals. He has a really good voice and very unique, like nobody has. And he hits high notes very well. And that's what makes us, I think, the band really stand out. Without him, I don't think the band would stand out quite as much. And that's, of course, why he went off to have like a successful solo career and all that and become more famous than the other two. But yeah, so thanks to Roxanne, they were able to get that deal. And in 1978, they came out with their first album, which had Roxanne on it, of course. And it was, and all the first three album names are very weird. I don't quite get it. I know there's a story behind them that I've heard, but the first album is called Outlandos d'Amor. Very interesting title. They all sound kind of very foreign-speaking type songs, like from another country or something. But yeah, it did really well though. It ended up peaking at number 6 on the chart, so it was a top 10 album. Like I said, Roxanne was a big hit off of it. But what's interesting is the next 4 albums. They only did 5 albums, so the next 4 albums, which they did one like almost every year until 1983, were all number 1 hits. So the next 4 albums, huge hits, including their second album, Regata de Blanc. Like I said, interesting. Zenyatta Mandata, their third album, if I'm pronouncing those right. And then you got Ghost in the Machine, the 4th album, and then their 5th and last album, Synchronicity, which is considered the best album, and it's my favorite album out of the 5. I'd probably go Synchronicity, then Ghost in the Machine. The first album is actually pretty good. I actually kind of like that one. I forget, I don't have the list on me, but the very first song was like probably their best rock song they ever did. Really good opener to the album, I remember. And of course, Roxanne's great. And there's some other really good songs on there. But I recommend those. And then Ghost Machine and Synchronicity definitely really good. The other two in the middle, I'm not as crazy about. They're okay. I need to listen to them again, probably. I know a lot of Police fans would be like, yeah, those are all. And crazy, they only do 5 albums. They all did really well. And a lot of people really enjoy the albums overall. Like I said, Synchronicity was their biggest hit, biggest selling album that they did, best critical acclaim. It's the only one that was nominated for like 5 Grammys that year, 1983. It was nominated for Album of the Year. It won 3 Grammys, one for Best Song for Every Breath You Take. Like I said, huge song. It won Song of the Year. It was nominated for Record of the Year, did not win that. They also won like Best Rock Pop Duo or something like that as well. So yeah, got 3 Grammys out of that album, plus yeah, how well it did. Yeah, so a huge win for them. It's funny that that's their last album. It's their biggest hit. Same thing happened to Simon Garfunkel. Last album, biggest hit that they had. But yeah, and their tour was did really good numbers. They even went to Shea Stadium and had a big concert there as well. Just a couple of things. They also won Grammys for, they won 2 Grammys for instrumental, interesting. One for Regata de Blanc off of that album, and then another song called Behind My Camel, which both instrumental. They won Grammys for both of those. And I know my friend Nick is, and others are not very happy that they beat Rush out. And Rush had YYZ came out one of those years and lost to the Police. And I kind of agree. I like YYZ better. I think it's a better instrumental overall. Probably the best instrumental I've ever heard. Anyway, so a lot of people are a little like, but that's how popular Police are. And I say, like, I didn't know how popular Police are until I was doing research, and it was like, no, they were hugely popular. I mean, they weren't around for that long, which is kind of crazy. Basically from 78 to 83, their albums were 5 albums in like 5 years. And, but lots of huge hits. I mean, when you go through all their songs, they had 5 number 1 hits, in fact, which include Message in a Bottle, Walking on the Moon, Don't Stand So Close to Me, Everything She Does Is Magic, and then Every Breath You Take. So 5 number 1s, that's pretty good. That's not easy to do for anybody to have. Like I said, even the Byrds, I thought were a really good band, only had like 2 number 1 hits maybe in their whole span. And there's other bands where they might get a couple of hits, number 1 hits, and some like Led Zeppelin and The Who, I don't think they ever got a number 1 hit at all, and they're great bands. So it's interesting how that works out, but definitely very popular, very critically acclaimed. And there's other good songs like Omega Man, Spirits in the Material World, Do 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 Di Da Da Da, interesting title name. Can't Stand Losing You, Walking in Your Footsteps is very good. Um, So Lonely, it's really good. Next to You, Tea in the Sahara, King of Pain. I mean, lots of really good songs there. There have been also radio hits as well. Um, but like I said, talking about the band itself, the musicianship is really good. I think Sting is overall a pretty good bass player. I don't know what he can, where he'd rank amongst bass players. Like I said, good, though good bass player. I think Stuart Copeland's one of the best drummers. Like he's one that I feel like people don't talk about enough, and he's actually one of the best rock drummers we ever had. The Rolling Stones ranked him the 10th best drummer in 2016, out of like 100, or whatever it was. So, I mean, yeah, top 10 drummer all time, according to Rolling Stones. And yeah, definitely put him up there. Really good sound on the drums there. Andy Summers also a really good guitar player as well. In 2015, he was ranked 85th best guitar player in Rolling Stone magazine. Recently, I think the last couple of months, they redid the list and did another ranking of like guitar players, and he was ranked 250. I think they ranked 250 guitar players, and he ranked like 250. So he barely made it into the top 250 while he was in the top 100 before. So I don't know what happened to his ranking. It fell big time between 2016 and 2023. So whatever you might take that, still, he's considered a really good guitar player. I shall say 4 of their 5 albums were in the Rolling Stones 500 Greatest Albums. So almost the whole complete set made into the Rolling Stones top 500 albums. So all of them, like I said, did very well. Synchronicity itself, like I said, did really well. It ranked 17th on Rolling Stone's 100 Best Albums of the 1980s. And then 455th in the 500 Greatest Albums. So, somewhat low on the list, but still, it's considered one of the great albums. And I would agree, it's a really good album. Of course, it helps when it has Every Breath You Take on it. It's one of their best songs. But yeah, after they did 1983, Sting decided he kind of wanted to try to do some solo work at that time. And so he went off and I think did some solo work. He also did some acting. He got some acting credits as well. So he went off to do do a solo album, I think, and some acting. And it seemed like they were suspecting to come back together. It seemed like they kind of took off a little bit, like a hiatus on the band while he did that stuff. And then I think there was an idea that they were going to come back together because it said in 1986 they were coming back together to maybe work on a new album. So 3 years after their last album. But Copeland he had a broken collarbone. And so he couldn't play the drums when they came together. So they decided, well, we can't do anything if Copeland has can't drum because of his shoulder or whatever, collarbone. There's no use in trying to rehearse and try to come up with a new album. So they kind of said, okay, let's put a hold on it, and they just never came back. And I don't know if I didn't read anything like there was any real bad blood. I heard there's some infighting in the band, but it seems like that's pretty common in bands. But nothing so bad that they're like, oh, we just, hate each other kind of thing. I don't know. It just never came about. And maybe it was just that Sting just kind of his solo career kind of started taking off. So I think he probably was like, well, I don't need to go back to the Police, the band. I got this solo career going on. So I'm guessing maybe that was why. But yeah, so it's interesting how they almost got back together, but just never did. They did end up coming back together in 2007, and they did a reunion tour between 2007 and 2008, and it was a really successful reunion tour. And that's the last time that I think they really got together since then. Of course, like I said, Sting went off to have a pretty successful solo career, which I have to go through him at some point and see what he's done. Copeland actually, he went off to play maybe with other bands, but he also did a lot of film scores, kind of helped out with film scores, including like Wall Street was one of them, and some other ones. So he kind of got into the movie industry and doing music for them as well. And Andy Summer also went off and did other bands and other projects, and they're all 3 still alive though, which is interesting. And also they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2003, so 20 years ago. Very rightly so. Like I said, one of the most popular bands that I never really give much credit to, and maybe an underrated band, because I don't feel like I hear a lot of people talk about the Police outside my friends in the music and the vinyl community. But I did a poll, I remember, like a while back on like what is the best band of the 1980s, and I think the Police won the poll, if I remember right. So they did very well, very popular anyway. So yeah, definitely a band that I recommend getting into. Like I said, especially Synchronicity is a really good album. I think anybody should listen to. But they're only 5 albums, so it doesn't take too long to get through their stuff. And so many good songs. I definitely do a top 10 probably next week if I can, and talk about what I like about that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Police. I'd love to hear yours. Please comment. What do you think about the Police? What's your favorite album or songs or all that? Love to hear your thoughts on that. Anyways, and just thank you to anybody watching this video. Thank you to anybody who likes it. And just thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a good day.